salute you. I am so proud of you right now. Guess what? All of you decided out there that over 90% of you feel that medicinal cannabis works. And you want to approve it. Over 90% of you feel medicinal cannabis works. And you want to approve it. I am so very, very proud of you as I keep repeating that. And this is what has to be approved. This beautiful plant. All of you know I have Crohn's disease out there. There are many of you watching right now that have a family member or yourself have an illness possibly. You seek relief from this beautiful plant like I do on a daily basis, whether it's your anxiety, whether it's your cancer, whether it's your MS, whether it's Alzheimer's. Did you know recently a study came out that a terrible disease like Alzheimer's that causes forgetfulness, medicinal marijuana works. Medicinal cannabis works for Alzheimer's and so many other ailments out there. So again, Canada, I salute you for saying yes and approving it. Thank you. Now, on to another note. You Americans out there have an election coming up. And today I have a very special guest, somebody who I love dearly and who has been a mentor in my life for many years, my surrogate daddy, and I am so proud to have him here today with me. He has done MarijuanaNews.com, he was a member of NORML, director, and he is a global marijuana activist and been involved all over the world, I can say. So welcome Richard Cowan to my show today. Yay!
Good to be here.
It's so nice to see you, Richard.
Good to see you.
Thank you for coming.
Indeed, glad to be here. See.
And I'm hoping you'll talk about this U.S. election that we're about to have.
Well, yes, you can talk me into it. I think it's important to begin by noting that this weekend, this Sunday, November 5th, will be the 10th anniversary of the passing of Proposition 215, medical cannabis initiative in California. And so 10 years have gone by since this important initiative really got things rolling. And so when you have an election like this year, where a number of states and localities have various cannabis related issues on local ballots, don't think, oh, it doesn't make any difference, we can't make any difference, why bother to vote, no point in doing anything. It is not an easy battle, and it is outrageous that we have made so little progress in the last 10 years, but we would not have made any progress if our friends in California hadn't stood up for what they believe in and did what everyone said they couldn't do. And so now you can report 10 years later that over 90% of Canadians and something like 80-some-odd% of Americans are in favor of medicinal cannabis. They think that it is wrong to arrest sick and dying people for using a plant that saves their lives, that reduces their suffering, that makes their lives bearable in many cases when it otherwise would not be. And that is really what this is all about. This is a moral judgment. Not really so much a medical judgment as it is a moral judgment that it is immoral to persecute people for using a plant that when they have a medical condition. And the other thing though that is very fascinating to me about this issue is that there is no other issue where you can have 90-80% of the people in favor of something and not have all the politicians out there leading the parade saying they've always been in favor of it. The Prime Minister of Canada ignores the passionate belief of 90% of the people of Canada and turns his back on people like you. In the United States, with our barely functional democracy, but we have to keep working on this. But the President of the United States, the Congress, most of the elected officials, editorial boards of major newspapers, all of them ignore the wishes of the American people. There is no other issue that you would have this kind of massive majority for, where the politicians simply turn up to thumb their noses at the people.
Now, isn't it about the people? So all of you have to get out there and vote. It is so important now to vote. Just like Richard's saying to me now, I'm sure many of you are well aware that in 2001, Mark Emery and I put together the BC Marijuana Party. And that was a victory. We put 79 candidates in 79 ridings. We got 4% of the vote. I tell you all, 4% of the vote. We raised awareness and attention all over the world for cannabis, medicinal cannabis, marijuana, ganja, whatever you want to call it. We raised the awareness and attention that it just deserved. So, if all of us Canadians can do it, then all of you Americans can do it. Now, Mark Emery has launched a campaign here from Canada on MySpace and in his magazine Cannabis Culture on who to vote for. And recently there was a news article even written about him in Washington about who he favored and who he did not favor and his ratings. And I love your ratings, Mark. Toxic waste. I mean, yes, there is a lot of toxic waste in the US government. So all of you, please, if you don't know who to vote for, there are many websites you can look at, just as I said, besides Cannabis Culture, Pot TV, MySpace, Normal, okay? Normal has a website as well.
Normal.org.
Normal.org. There are other websites to look at for information from us Canadians, whether it's Advanced Nutrients or MedPot forums, Treating Yourself. All of us are out there to help you, give you information, and educate you. And as I've said in all of my other shows before, any of you needing help with a medical exemption in Canada, email me. You know how to get in touch with me by now. Through all those forums or rainydays@dccnet.com. I'll put up all the different ways to get in touch with me at the end of the show. It's very important that all of you tell your doctors out there now, like I've said to you in previous shows, that you believe in medicinal marijuana, that you believe that cannabis, medicinal cannabis works. So all of you, keep telling your doctors that. Bombard them, because that is the only way, to a degree, that we are going to gain the headway we've already gained in Canada. We're demanding it, so now our politicians are going to have to say yes, aren't they? We are the majority, right? All of you out there who are sick and dying, or the ones who aren't dying, who are just sick. We are the majority, and we are demanding legalization. So, on that note, Mr. Cowan.
Well, I think that, sadly, educating the medical profession is a big part of our job. I very bluntly call the medical association just basically organized quackery. They're trade unions that are politicized, and it's believe it or not, the situation is really worse in Canada than it is in the United States in that regard. But the nurses' organizations, for example, the nurses come into direct contact with the patients, and they have seen the difference that it makes. So the nurses actually, as a group and speaking through their various organizations, have come out in favor of medicinal cannabis. And this is something that, again, in terms of don't let the doctor play this, the game of this white coat I'm wearing makes me an expert on everything, because the fact of the matter is, there was a story the other day that 25% of people end up in Canadian hospitals are there because of adverse reactions to pharmaceutical drugs, prescription drugs, the drugs that the doctors wrote prescriptions for that had been approved by the FDA and had supposedly been proved to be safe and effective. No. The fact of the matter is that no one ends up in the hospital as a result of the medicinal use of cannabis. That people end up in hospitals and in funeral homes as a result of pharmaceuticals. And again, you mentioned earlier Alzheimer's. The fact of the matter is that about the same time that it was being reported that medicinal cannabis is effective for Alzheimer's, it was also announced that none of the pharmaceutical products that were being tested for treating were working out. So, it is simply, that nothing else works. And this, of course, has been the case from time after time with medicinal cannabis, that people end up using it because nothing else had worked, or worse, that they were having very serious, nasty side effects from the doctor-approved establishment pharmaceuticals. Now, this isn't to say that the pharmaceuticals are not good for anybody, but the fact of the matter is that they can't say, oh, we have to have our FDA test, we have to do this, we have to have it approved, and so on, because that isn't true. Medicinal cannabis is the thing that saves lives and can save lives of people around the world, not just in the U.S. and Canada, people in poor countries that would need it more than we do in many ways, because they don't have any other alternatives. And by the way, I really like your medicinal T-shirt there. This is something that is fairly new. I've seen it once or twice in your programs, but this is, can anybody else get one of those?
Well, for all of you out there, I now have available this wonderful shirt, medicinal, okay, with that wonderful little subtle pot leaf, available for women and men, small, medium, large, extra large, etc., etc., for $35, okay, including mail, shipping and handling, and all of the proceeds are going to legal fees, everybody. You can send me a money order, and I will give you the address. You can also email me, and you can also contact me on all the forums on how to get one. And I will also have PayPal on my michelleraney.com very soon, in the next week or so, to help you buy these wonderful shirts for your Christmas gifts.
This is a very subtle way for people to come out of the closet and show their support for medicinal cannabis. That because it is something that anybody can wear almost any place, and so I think this is something that everybody should have.
Yes.
And don't worry, that's all I'm going to take off right now.
Damn! I have these wonderful medicinal shirts available for you all.